Welcome to Michigan Works Association 2020 Annual Conference. My name is Christine Klee. I am the Communications Specialist with the Michigan Works Association. On behalf of the staff at the association and all of our sponsors, we want to thank you for being part of this conference and this session titled Credential Attainment Cohort. Big shout out to thanks to our Michigan Works 7B for sponsoring today's workshop session. Our sponsor helped make this conference happen, and we are very thankful for their support. Along with our sponsors, our exhibitors have also given their time to be part of this event, so please be sure to visit our exhibit booths during the designated exhibit hall times. Before we begin this session, just a few housekeeping items I'd like to share with you. This session will have a Q&A. You are more than welcome to put your questions in the chat during the session, but if you'd like to participate in a back and forth discussion, please click on share video and audio during the Q&A session at the end to participate. But if you just want to put in the Q&A, we're more than happy to read those questions for you if you're shy. Also, we're very eager to have your feedback about the conference and the session. So please do take a few moments after this session to do a short survey. I've already posted the link in the chat area. Presentations will be available after the conference on our association website. And now I'd like to introduce your speakers for this session: Erin Desnoyer, Department Specialist with the State of Michigan, and Jeni Spaulding, Department Specialist with the State of Michigan.
Thanks so much, Christine. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Credential Attainment Cohort session. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to the association for inviting us to present today. As Christine mentioned, please enter questions that you have throughout the presentation into the chat box. We do have time at the end to review and respond to those questions. Also, I don't want to make any assumptions about who's in the room with us today. I'm sure many, if not all of you, are familiar with the jargon, but I just want to be clear that the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act will be referred to as WIOA or WIOA. And you'll see it printed on the slides as well. During today's session, we will cover the definition of credential attainment in the context of WIOA performance. We will talk about the Credential Attainment Cohort, why it was initiated, and what the outcomes of that cohort were. And we will discuss several credential attainment resources, some of which you may already be familiar with and some that may be new. I'm Erin Desnoyer, and I work with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity on the Workforce Innovation team. We primarily work with Titles 1 and 3 of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Title 1 includes adult dislocated worker and youth programs. Title 3 includes the Wagner-Pizer Employment Service. Our team provides things like technical assistance, policy development, and programmatic monitoring reviews. I've been with the department for about 2 years now. And prior to my work with this department, I worked as a juvenile probation officer. And before that, I worked within the Michigan Works system in a variety of roles and in a variety of programs, including WIOA Youth, Adult, Dislocated Worker, Trade Adjustment Assistance, and PATH. Oh, Jeni, I think you are muted.
Thank you for that. I'm Jeni Spaulding, a specialist with WIOA's Office of Employment and Training in the Talent Information Systems section, which includes post-secondary schools, the Pure Michigan Talent Connect and Michigan Training Connect, our state's required labor exchange and eligible training provider list, as well as Pathfinder, Michigan's education and career website, and the Workforce Longitudinal Data System, which connects training opportunities and graduates' wages. I specialize in data system collection and connections and participate in our Michigan's Credential Engine collaboration with our industry engagement section as well. I've been with our department since 2014 and came to the state from 6 years in the Michigan Works system as a youth specialist. So welcome to our presentation.
So in order to provide some context for why the Credential Attainment Cohort was initiated, we wanted to first explain what we mean when we say credential attainment. For purposes of this conversation, we are referring to the definition that can be found within the federal regulations, which is the following. the percentage of those WIOA program participants enrolled in education or training who attain a recognized post-secondary credential or a secondary school diploma or its recognized equivalent during participation in or within 1 year after exit from the program. The challenge really lies in determining what recognized means. As I'm sure many of you know, there really is no simple way to determine what makes a credential recognized. This cohort was formed essentially to help states navigate this challenge. To provide some additional context, we wanted to show recent statewide performance information. The graph that's being shown right now depicts Title I program year 18 credential attainment performance of the states that participated in the credential attainment cohort. And in a moment, Jeni will talk more about what states those were. As a reminder, Title I includes adult, dislocated worker, and youth programs. And as you can see, Michigan had a credential attainment rate of 78.2%. And again, this is comparing states that participated in this cohort. On the next slide, you can see the frequency of each credential option that was reported nationally, with certificates being the most frequently reported. This graph shows a comparison of the Title I program's frequency of each credential option. So you can see certificates are reported very heavily with adults, a little less so with dislocated workers, and then even less with youth. And it pretty much follows from there. And here you can see how post-secondary credential types reported in Michigan compared to other cohort participating states. So with Michigan, you see certificates at 2621, and I apologize, I know it's probably a little difficult to read. I had to borrow this graphic from another presentation. Now Jeni will tell you a little bit about the background of the cohort. Oh, you're muted, Jeni.
I think I'm going to leave that unmuted. We're going to see if we have feedback because I missed that piece. So the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration, the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, and the Rehabilitation Services Administration invited states to create a state cohort on a credential attainment last fall. They considered applications from interested states, and Michigan was one of 9 states selected to share, identify, and explore strategies for determining which certifications qualify as credentials according to the definition outlined with ETA Training and Employment Guidance Letter, the TEGL, 1016 Change 1. The goals of the cohort were to develop actionable solutions to some of the common challenges around reporting on the credential attainment indicator, the collection of required data, and using the parameters established within federal guidance to determine which degrees, certificates, certifications, and licenses qualify as credentials. Each team represented Titles I and III, as Erin mentioned, the adult, dislocated worker, youth, and Wagner-Pizer sections, and Title II, adult education, Title V, rehab, and 2 additional partners of the state's choice. Your very own associations, Janet Bloomfield and myself, joined Erin, as well as other teammates from Leo within vocational rehab and the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons and the adult education section. The state cohort met 8 times virtually and once in person from last October through May. I see a question from Susan that mentioned the state of Michigan's numbers for 2019. Those charts that Erin had referenced were actually provided to us by them this spring when we met in person, and we will follow up with you, Susan, regarding the more recent program year's outcomes. So our goals really were straightforward. We needed to participate and assist in the creation of a system-wide resource for all states that would assist them to determine the degrees, certificates, certifications, and licenses that count as credentials for the performance indicator. And we also needed to create our own state plan at the end of this cohort. Those results ended up being a Michigan State Action Plan, and we also helped to create the decision tree and the Capstone project of the document that was explain the decision tree as well. So on the next two slides, we talk about the Michigan Action Plan. We detailed that we would work to identify first the credentials, those licenses, certificates, certifications, and degrees that are available to Michigan residents using the Credential Engine Partnership Program that started 2 years ago. Using that tool, first we needed to identify what was available, and then the incorporation of that database to create official lists of names and issuers into internal systems, whether it be our eligible training provider list, the Michigan Training Connect, our Michigan OSMIS performance tracking system, or the job seeker and employer sides of the Pure Michigan Talent Connect Labor Exchange website. If we can get all of our systems to refer to the same credential by name and issuer, then that creates a level playing field and also allows analysis. We would also take that list and bring that to industry and employers for their assistance in truly indicating the industry recognized section of which we refer these credentials. We're always on our end talking about industry recognized, and we would love the participation and indication of the roles these credentials truly play in employment to be able to really increase transparency around training those credentials and employment rates as a result of obtaining those credentials. On the next slide, with the second part of our action plan, we really wanted to take the data and resulting tools from this cohort to identify them and their usage within each of our separate programs. As I said, we had representatives from all of our sections, and we want to be able to use the tools that were created nationally as a resource and also provide training on the use in the way that it connects with the different qualifications and requirements of those programs. So we really identified that the training would be unique to those different programs and sections as applied to their program delivery. Erin, I think if you continue.
Thank you. And one of the resources that was introduced during the cohort was created by DOL and is called the Credential Attainment Decision Tree Tool. This tool assists stakeholders with determining what credential will count toward the credential attainment indicator. In selecting options through a series of drop-down menus, the tool will tell the user whether it would be considered a WIOA credential. This slide shows the tool and an example. Here you see several drop-down menus. What type of organization or institution is offering the training program? What type of credential is it? What type of skills does it attest to? Is the training related to an in-demand industry and occupation in the local area? In this example, I selected a bachelor's degree earned from an institution of higher education, leading to industry-wide technical skills, and the training is related to an in-demand industry. These inputs in the tool show that this type of credential would be considered a WIOA post-secondary credential, and that would count toward the performance indicator. This tool can also be found via the Michigan Training Connect website, where there is a link to it on the homepage. It's important to note that this tool is not intended to be any sort of DOL certified guarantee that the credential being considered counts toward the performance indicator. It's truly meant to be a guide. Additionally, cohort participants developed a Capstone project. This tool can be found on the Workforce GPS website. In addition to making credential attainment guidance available in one place, this tool also presents several case scenarios to assist stakeholders in determining whether a credential would count toward the performance indicator. So as you can see, there's a table of contents, and then I just inserted one case study or scenario example here. This might be a good resource for new service providers, or even people who have been working in the field for a long time, to help you kind of guide your decision making on whether a credential could count toward that credential attainment indicator. Overall, when it comes to credential attainment resources, there are lots available. Of course, there are the TEAGLES, the training and employment guidance letters that are out there, 1016 Change 1, 1418, and 2319, to name a few. These can be found on ETA's website as well. There's some additional resources and tools that you can find via Workforce GPS. With that link there. And I know the PowerPoint slides will be provided to attendees after the conference, and I can also copy and paste these links into the chat. And if you wanted more information about the cohort or the Capstone project and other states' action plans, are all posted to the Workforce GPS website at that link.
There have been many efforts regarding the word credential. I know from attending the opening sessions or the federal sessions, we've heard the term credential used even before this year's crisis, and even more so now as we face today's challenges. The Governor's 60 by 30 initiative focused on increasing the number of residents qualified to meet our economy's current and future needs. And that has not changed even with our current challenges. I think the piece that we're looking at is there are so many levels of credentials, and in participating with the Credential Engine project, we really look at using that term credential and realizing that it is very inclusive, from the standardized degrees, state issued licenses, and then the many credentials of certifications and certificates that are offered as a result of training, and our need to really look at how many of them are stackable, how many of them at the completion really make our job seekers, our Michigan residents, employable at that after their attainment. In addition, we have many efforts by the CTE in the CTE arena, both at the secondary and post-secondary. They have started since the Perkins reauthorization, really looking at aligning their programs with those industry recognized credentials. There's been a lot of work going on at the schools, recognizing those and indicating what would be offered as a result of those trainings. And again, like I said, the Credential Engine presentation that we will be giving tomorrow at 10:15 with Marcia Black-Watson will define more of the specific credential definition an explanation in the database that we referred to. That'll happen at 10:15, because we recognize too that especially within our policy section, assigning the Michigan Works ultimate authority in approving those credentials to be used for, within the Michigan Training Connect, assigned a responsibility for them to identify what's industry recognized. And we'd love to be able to provide a tool that was based on industry feedback to assist you with that. And working with that program, we have over 2,000 lives that need to be renewed every year. And that's a huge responsibility. We're using federal ITA, individual training account funds towards these programs that we are assuming that our residents will be able to be employable as a result of that. So let's really unpack what those credentials mean and connect them to wages and employment so we can have a better idea really of those programs and make sure that everything is really being focused towards employment goals as well. Another piece will be, as we've talked about, we say industry recognized, and in the field we deal with the folks, we deal with the schools, we talk about the training programs, but as a result of looking at those credentials that will be offered or that are offered to our residents, if we can provide those to aid in the yearly employer survey that our labor market information and strategic initiatives, so LMISI, they perform that every year, they're going to be using that data and really sharing with employers the relevant credentials that have been indicated as available to our residents and allowing them to participate and indicate their preferences towards those. So maybe we'll have another tool as a result of that as well. A lot of times we get asked about the timeframes, and we can say that with the virus and the response and the different programs and expansion, there has been a lot of redirected effort in our agency towards immediate needs. So we're a little behind schedule with our pre-COVID timeline. So we're kind of dependent on all of our resources being available, but we do anticipate LMISI performing that survey in the fall, having this data, and then us really working with the data and being able to share that with you, as soon as next year. So just know that we're working to assist as much as possible.
So some of the key themes that came during the cohort is to begin with federal and state guidance. That's always just kind of the first place to start. Again, those T goals and also the WIOA manual that our office produces, and that can be found on Leo's website. There is unfortunately no master credential list. Again, the work that is being done with Credential Engine is very exciting, and that's getting us sort of a tool that will be close to a master credential list, at least here for the state of Michigan. But they brought up having no master credential list countless times during the cohort. Jeni, do you remember the number they brought up nationally that there are, how many credentials there are?
I actually believe they cited the Credential Engine project, and I know that it's over 700,000 unique credentials that they have worked with amassing. They do talk from their level, just as we don't want, at the state level, we don't want to prescribe at a local level any kind of uniform master credential list. They don't want to do that at the federal level at all either. So that's where that no master credential list comes from, is they do not want to be prescriptive at all and saying here's identified approved credentials. They leave that to the state. And then for Michigan, we leave that to the local areas to identify.
They also continuously mention the fact that no one tool has all of the answers. You should use your entire toolkit. And this is kind of a popular topic when it comes to credential attainment. They told us repeatedly, despite our advocacy, that work readiness and work safety certificates do not count as credentials that will count toward the WIOA credential attainment indicator. And Michigan is not the only state who asked that question. It was that was echoed by many of our partners within the cohort from other states. We were, we really pushed on this with representatives from DOL during the cohort, and they were very clear in that those certificates do not count. There are other FAQs that you can find in the WIOA manual. Again, in that capstone, there are some case scenarios, and then using that decision tree tool, it should hopefully help provide some context and some guidance on what might count and what might not. Do we have any questions that we haven't touched on yet?
I know that I've mentioned a few of them, answered them while you were talking. Someone had asked about the credential database that I referred to, and that was definitely within a futuristic sense. That is our plan, and it's being created as we speak. It will be fed from the National Credential Finder, which is the credential registry. And I don't mean to sort of divert from the federal focus of this presentation, but really there's been done nationally to catalog information about credentials. And we've partnered with that project to be able to help our partners within the state of Michigan, and whether that be our state government agency partners who issue licenses, or any of the post-secondary institutions, to help publish and increase the transparency on what is being offered within Michigan. Once we get our data to that registry, and then we can gather anything that's relevant to our Michigan residents. And what that creates is truly the only database that we know, the only collection of information that would have official names and issuers, and being able to connect that to occupations and training programs within Michigan. And then having that singular language, singular terms, to be able to relay that across our programs and within the schools, proprietary schools, etc., who indicate anything other than a degree level. We can then start utilizing that to have one-to-one matches across our systems. And we know that when we've done analysis within the systems, even if you look at just the term certified nursing assistant or a CNA, that can be entered, has been entered 200 different ways in a free-form field, both whether that's entering OSMIS or it is a job seeker claiming that credential in their Pure Michigan Talent Connect account. If it's lost in a text box within the Pure Michigan Training Connect description offered by an employer, or even in our free-form fields where we indicate, we allow training providers in our Michigan Training Connect to indicate that their training program is approved to offer training that will lead to that CNA license. So the uniformity across our systems will be huge in actually allowing analysis and proper connections. I'm really trying to be calm because we know that I get so excited about the possibilities. And I'm just as eager as you guys to get this together and start digging into the uses and start pushing that to our different systems and then seeing really what the counts are.
We did have a question from Susie, and I'm not sure if you answered it, is what are the state of Michigan numbers for 2019?
So the numbers that we show were borrowed from a presentation that DOL gave during the cohort in-person meeting in February. So we can get the PY19 numbers and we can send those out. We just have to get in touch with our data and performance team, and we can get that shared with the group.
Any other questions? If you'd like to, you can click the button on the top right of your screen that says share video and audio if you'd like to talk directly to Jeni and Erin. Or if you're shy, feel free to put in the chat and I'd be happy to read your question to our presenters.
And we'd also like to ask the question to the group, what other pain points or what pain points do you guys have when it comes to meeting this performance indicator? Since we do have some extra time, we'd love to hear from you on, how we can work to resolve any of those things, or maybe some of these resources can help resolve some of those things. We'd love to hear from you.
Another thought to throw out too, to ponder and would love to have shared is, in addition to the different ways that we've talked about, the ways that credential information could be used across systems, is there anything we're missing, or is there additional ways that you think this information would be useful? Sometimes we know that we all are absorbed into our niche, whether it be a certain population that we serve or a certain program that we focus on. And so when you hear this information and filter it through your experience, you are truly the experts and would be able to share different ways that this could be utilized within your expertise set. And definitely share that, because this is all a public good. When our data is shared to the registry, it can then be, again, found on the Credential Finder website that I shared in the chat. But that is only their demonstration of ways that this data could be used. So while we're eager to share our information, the most important thing is what we can do with that information, of when we pull that back in common terms and we pull in those national associations and organizations that offer, say, medical assistant certifications, and then detail what that certification means. And then we have this data in front of us, and it can become a canon, whether it be an employer that has an applicant in front of them that is citing a national organization and a certification that perhaps they're not familiar with in their area because it's more commonly used in another part of the country. And they want to know, what does this mean? How do the competencies compare? What does the fact that they have this certification, how does that compare to the ones that I know? Because again, we like to have some kind of documentation of the knowledge that a person comes to us with or will learn as a result of training. And we're just taking everything at this point at face value of what that means, and that if it's issued by something nationally, that it must be a approved or valid. And so what are some ways that you can think of that more credential data could be could benefit your programs or the folks that you serve?
We also got a comment from Kristen. She says, when entering credentials, I do hesitate as how to enter certification, certificate, license, etc. So it would be nice to have a consistent way to enter.
Definitely. So Kristen, I'm assuming that you are entering as a result of the training activity or in the outcome screen of your participants within OSMIS. I'm assuming that that's kind of what you're referencing. And we know, we've done the searches to be able to illustrate how this will be valuable, and that's where we can see anytime there's free-form fields within a data system, that opens up all of that discrepancy, and you can't have a one-to-one. Kristen just said yes, that's true. And I know that now we've linked Michigan Training Connect and ITA programs into OSMIS, but I don't think that when you go into your outcome screen or you're doing, the wrap-up claiming the credential, that there's any kind of merger from what that training program has indicated as the credential that's offered at the end that feeds over. So again, we've got lots of different connections that we can make. In best case scenario, we would be able to just focus on everything credential and make that as streamlined as possible. But we all know with, all the increased focus on new programs and augmenting the latest updates that need to be made, sometimes those get mixed. So the feedback that you're providing is important from the data side, because if we can express a fix or a change as represented as needed by the field, then that helps us to make some of those changes that we don't see as well. So definitely share those with us, or anytime there's any kind of upgrade or enhancement that you can think of, always share, because as a user of the system, you're the one that can see how that streamlines sometimes better than we can when we're mired in the actual programming or the way things fit, or meeting the fields to meet reporting requirements. So definitely, thank you.
One of the such suggestion is what Sue says. She said it would be fabulous to link credentials to current job postings as well.
Definitely, Sue. That's where we're talking by utilizing that centralized database in the background. When an employer says, I need a CNA, right now I believe they're just perhaps a text box. And so in there they'll share information about qualifications and what that person must have. But separate from the text box, we actually have a place where they can use an indicator based on whatever occupation title they chose, any related, they could get suggestions on anything related to that occupation and actually click that. Then again, on the job seeker side, if they have a corresponding credential offered, then they'll have that one-to-one match, and it would help as well. So Sue, is that kind of what you're talking about too, is to have a more concrete match between job seekers and employers? Yes, ma'am. That's our goal. We're excited. We're excited. We need just one of the least important reasons for us to have our current health situation rectified and people less in danger, and being able to go back to our more boring business at hand. So
Are there any other questions for our presenters? All right, is there anything else, Jeni and Erin, you'd like to add?
Here's our contact information. If anybody has, you think of any additional ideas or, again, challenges, I appreciate the contributions from the audience. I made note of what's been presented and discussed, just to remind us of what we need to make sure we're focused on in our office. But again, if you think of anything in the future, again, those pain points with determining what is a credential, how can we make sure we're all using the same language and the terms that we're using are clearly defined, and any challenges you have related to that or anything else for that matter, feel free to reach out to us at any point, and we will get that PY19 data sent out as well.
All right, well, this ends our presentation for today. I would like to thank our presenters, Jeni and Erin, and we also really appreciate everyone who attended this and you're paying attention to those great questions. I hope you really have some great takeaways and you've enjoyed this feature of the conference. Thank you for attending the Michigan Works Annual Conference, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Also, I did post the link to the survey, so we really would love your feedback so we can continuously improve. So please take that short survey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.